3 years. That's how long Thor scrubbed the floors of the Calloway mansion, tolerating her mother-in-law's venom and her husband's cold indifference. She thought if she just loved harder, if she just became smaller, they would finally accept her. She was wrong. Tonight, amidst the freezing rain of a New York November, they didn't just divorce her. They threw her onto the street like a bag of trash to make room for his pregnant mistress. But as Thor shivered on the pavement, clutching a broken suitcase, she didn't know that a black Bentley was already turning the corner. The Calloways thought they were discarding a peasant. They had no idea they had just declared war on the sole heiress to the Vance global empire. The smell of rosemary and roasted garlic should have made the Calloway dining room feel warm. Instead, the air was so frigid, Thor could almost see her breath. Thor Vance, or Thor Calloway, for a few more hours, wiped a bead of sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand. She had spent 6 hours preparing this meal. Beef Wellington, truffle mashed potatoes, and a glaze that had taken 2 hours to reduce. It was Liam's 32nd birthday. She wanted it to be perfect. She needed it to be perfect. The wine is corked, Thor. Honestly, do you have no palate, or do you just enjoy serving vinegar? Beatrice Calloway sat at the head of the mahogany table, her fingers drumming against the stem of a crystal glass. She was a woman who wore her cruelty like her Chanel suits, tailored, expensive, and suffocating. "I'm sorry, Mother," Thor whispered, reaching to take the glass. "I'll open the 98 vintage." "Don't bother," Beatrice snapped, pulling the glass away. "You'll probably break the cork. You have such clumsy peasant hands. It's genetic, I suppose. Your father was a mechanic, wasn't he? Grease never really washes off." Thor froze. Her father had been a kind man who died of a heart attack working double shifts to pay for her college tuition. Tuition she abandoned to marry Liam because he said he needed a supportive wife more than a working one. "Where is Liam?" Thor asked, changing the subject to stop the stinging in her eyes. "The Wellington will get cold." "He's working, obviously," Beatrice said, slicing into the meat with surgical precision. "Someone has to pay for this house. It certainly isn't you." The front door slammed open. The heavy oak reverberated through the silent house. Thor's face lit up. "He's here." She smoothed her apron, quickly untying it and tossing it onto a side chair. She wanted to look presentable. She rushed toward the foyer. "Liam, happy birth." The words died in her throat. Liam Calloway stood in the entryway, shaking rain from his trench coat. But he wasn't alone. Hanging onto his arm, looking like a porcelain doll wrapped in faux fur, was Jessica Thorne. Thor knew Jessica. She was Liam's executive assistant, a woman who Thor had once brought soup to when she was out sick with the flu. A woman Thor had trusted. "Liam?" Thor breathed, her hands trembling now. "Why? Why is she here?" Liam didn't look at Thor. He looked at the floor, then at his mother, who had walked up behind Thor with a smirk that could cut glass. "Because, Thor," Beatrice said, her voice smooth as silk, "Jessica is family. Or she will be. Very soon." Liam finally looked up. His eyes were devoid of the warmth Thor remembered from their college days. Now they were hard, calculating, and annoyed. "We need to talk, Thor," Liam said. He didn't move toward her. He kept his arm securely around Jessica's waist. Jessica rested a hand on her stomach, a deliberate, theatrical gesture. "I don't understand," Thor stammered. "I made dinner. It's your birthday." "God, you are so pathetic," Jessica laughed. It was a high, tinkling sound that made Thor's stomach turn. "He doesn't want your roast beef, Thor. He wants a woman who fits his future." not a charity case he picked up in undergrad. "Liam, tell her to leave," Thor demanded, finding a shred of a backbone. "This is our home." "Actually," Liam said, reaching into his coat pocket and pulling out a thick manila envelope. He tossed it onto the entryway table. It landed with a heavy thud. "It's my home. My name is on the deed. My name is on the accounts. You signed the prenup, remember? The one my mother insisted on." Thor stared at the envelope. "What is this?" "Divorce papers," Liam said plainly, "and an eviction notice, effective immediately." The world tilted. "Immediately?" "Liam, it's pouring rain. It's 40 degrees outside. I have nowhere to go." "That's hardly my problem," Liam muttered, finally looking ashamed, but not enough to stop. "Jessica is moving in tonight. She needs the master suite. She's expecting." The silence that followed was deafening. Thor looked at Jessica's hand on her stomach. The betrayal wasn't just a knife in the back. It was a twisting blade. "You're pregnant?" Thor whispered. She and Liam had been trying for 2 years. He had told her it was God's will they hadn't conceived. Turns out it was just his infidelity. "A boy?" Beatrice announced triumphantly from the doorway. "Finally, a true heir. Not that disappointed look you give us every month, Thor." Thor looked at the three of them. The husband she adored, the mother-in-law she served, the friend she trusted, a wall of malice. "You want me to leave now?" Thor asked, her voice surprisingly steady. "Pack a bag," Beatrice commanded, "but we will check it. No family silver, no jewelry Liam bought you, just your rags." 10 minutes later, Thor came down the stairs. She carried a single battered suitcase, the one she had brought with her to this marriage 3 years ago. She wore jeans and a sweater, her coat buttoned to her chin. Beatrice stood by the door, holding it open to the storm outside. "Go on, and don't embarrass us by crying on the lawn." Thor stepped onto the porch. The wind whipped her hair across her face. "Liam," she said, turning back one last time, "you're making a mistake." "The only mistake I made was marrying a nobody," Liam sneered, emboldened by Jessica's hand on his chest. "Goodbye, Thor." The door slammed shut. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Thor walked down the long, paved driveway. The rain soaked through her coat instantly. She reached the iron gates of the estate, her hands numb. She had no car. It was in Liam's name. She had $20 in her pocket. Her credit cards had likely been cancelled 10 minutes ago. She sat on her suitcase on the curb, the rain mingling with the hot tears finally spilling down her cheeks. She was 25 years old, and her life was over. Or so she thought. Suddenly, headlights cut through the darkness, bright LED beams that blinded her. A car slowed down, purring with the low hum of an expensive engine. It wasn't a taxi. It was a long, sleek, black Bentley Mulsanne. The rear window rolled down. "Thor Vance?" a deep, gravelly voice asked. Thor squinted, shivering. It's Calloway." "Not anymore, it isn't," the man said. The door opened. A man in a sharp grey suit stepped out, holding a large black umbrella. He didn't look like a predator. He looked like a butler from a bygone era. "Please get in, Miss Vance. We have been waiting for that door to close for a very long time." Thor hesitated, clutching the handle of her wet suitcase. "Who are you? Did Liam send you to mock me?" The man offered a rare, soft smile. "Mr. Calloway couldn't afford the gas in this car, let alone my services. My name is Arthur Sterling. I am the executor of the Vance estate. Please, you'll catch your death." The warmth radiating from the open car door was too tempting. Thor slid into the back seat. The leather was soft, smelling of cedar and polish. Arthur closed the door and got into the front passenger seat. A driver was already navigating them away from the curb, leaving the Calloway mansion in the rearview mirror. "Where are we going?" Thor asked, her teeth chattering. Arthur handed her a thermos from a side compartment. "Hot tea. Drink. We are heading to the Four Seasons in Manhattan for tonight. Tomorrow, we go to the main residence." "The main residence?" Thor asked. "I don't understand. I have no money, Mr. Sterling. I can't pay for the Four Seasons." Arthur turned around in his seat. "Miss Vance, do you remember your grandfather?" "Silas Vance?" Thor frowned. "He died when I was 5. My dad said he was a stubborn old man who lived in a cabin in Montana." Arthur chuckled darkly. He was a stubborn old man, but the cabin was a 7,000-square-foot lodge, and it was the smallest property he owned. Your father and Silas had a falling out, a difference of philosophy. Your father wanted a simple life. Silas wanted to conquer the world. Thor lowered the thermos. "What are you saying?" "Silas Vance passed away 3 weeks ago," Arthur said gently. "I have been trying to reach you, but Mr. Calloway intercepted my letters. He likely thought they were bills." Thor felt a flash of anger. "Liam hid mail from her?" "Your grandfather built Vance Global Industries," Arthur continued. "Mining, tech, real estate, shipping. It is one of the largest privately held conglomerates in the Northern Hemisphere." Thor blinked. "Okay. So?" "So," Arthur said, his eyes locking onto hers. "Your father passed before Silas. That makes you the sole direct descendant. You are the only beneficiary." Thor laughed. It was a hysterical, broken sound. "You've got the wrong person. My bank account has $12 in it. I just got kicked out of a house because I couldn't buy a vintage wine." Arthur reached into his briefcase and pulled out an iPad. He tapped the screen and handed it to her. It was a bank ledger. The name at the top read, "The Thor Vance Trust." Thor looked at the balance. She blinked. She rubbed her eyes and looked again. There were 9 zeros. "This says 6 billion, she whispered. "Liquid assets," Arthur corrected. "The total valuation of the company and real estate portfolio is closer to 40 billion. But yes, you have immediate access to $6 billion in cash." Thor dropped the iPad on the seat. Her hands were shaking violently. "This is a joke, a reality TV show." "It is very real, Thor," Arthur said solemnly. "But there was a condition in Silas's will, a toxic asset clause, he called it." "What condition?" "Silas knew you had married Liam Calloway. He had him investigated. He knew the Calloways were social climbers, vampires, if I may be blunt. Silas stipulated that you could not receive a dime of the inheritance until you were free of Liam Calloway. If you were still married to him upon Silas's death, the money was to sit in a trust until you divorced or were widowed." Thor stared out the window at the blurry city lights of New York. "So if Liam hadn't kicked me out tonight?" "You would have remained poor," Arthur nodded, "and he would have remained oblivious. By throwing you out, by serving you divorce papers, he effectively unlocked the vault. As of the moment he signed those papers, the estate is yours." A strange feeling washed over Thor. It wasn't happiness. She was still heartbroken. It was something colder. It was power. She thought of Beatrice calling her a peasant. She thought of Jessica touching her stomach in Thor's home. She thought of Liam saying she was a nobody. "Does he know?" Thor asked. "Does Liam know about Silas?" "No one knows," Arthur said. "Silas was extremely private. The name Vance is known in business circles, but the face behind it was a mystery. And since you took the name Calloway, no one made the connection." The car pulled up to the Four Seasons. Doorman rushed to open the door. "What do you want to do, Miss Vance?" Arthur asked. "We can issue a press release tomorrow. We can buy the Calloway house and evict them by noon." Thor stepped out of the car. The rain had stopped. She looked up at the towering skyscraper, then back at Arthur. Her eyes had changed. The sadness was receding, replaced by steel. "No," Thor said softly. "That's too easy. They humiliated me for 3 years. They broke me down piece by piece. I want to return the favor." Arthur smiled, a genuine wicked glint in his eye. "I was hoping you'd say that. What are your instructions?" "Let the divorce proceed. Let them think I'm destitute. Let them think they've won," Thor said, pulling her coat tighter. "And in the meantime, I need a makeover. I need to learn how to run a board meeting. And Arthur?" "Yes, Miss Vance. Find out who holds the debt on Liam's company. I heard him on the phone last week. He's over-leveraged." "I believe we already own the bank that holds his loans, Ma'am," Arthur noted. "Good," Thor said, walking toward the hotel entrance. "Don't call in the debt yet. Just tighten the leash. I want to feel him squirm before I crush him." As she walked into the golden lobby of the hotel, Thor Vance didn't look like a discarded wife anymore. She looked like a predator entering a new hunting ground. 3 months later, the Thor Vance who scrubbed floors was dead. In her place stood a woman who looked like she could cut steel with her gaze. She stood in front of a floor-to-ceiling mirror in a penthouse overlooking Central Park. Her hair, once a mousy, frizzy brown, tied back in a messy bun, was now a sleek, dark chocolate cascade that fell to her waist, treated with keratin and silk oils. Her skin glowed, the result of a dedicated dermatologist and weeks of proper sleep. She wore a cream-colored cashmere power suit that cost more than Liam's car. Arthur Sterling stood by the door, holding a tablet. "The lesson continues, Miss Vance. Are you ready?" "I'm ready, Arthur," Thor said, her voice dropping an octave, losing its frantic, apologetic pitch. She had spent the last 90 days in a grueling boot camp. She didn't just buy clothes. She hired voice coaches to erase her nervous stutter. She hired retired CEOs to teach her how to read a P&L statement. She studied the Calloway family business, Calloway Construction, until she knew their margins better than they did. "Report on the target," Thor commanded, turning from the mirror. Arthur tapped the screen. "It's working. The supply chain disruption we orchestrated, quietly, of course, has delayed their Midtown project by 6 weeks. Liam is bleeding cash. He's paying overtime to workers who have no steel to weld because Vance Steel has put his orders at the back of the queue." Thor walked over to the window, sipping an espresso. "And Beatrice?" "Beatrice is dipping into her personal savings to cover the operational costs. She's furious. And Jessica—" Arthur paused, a slight grimace on his face. "Go on," Thor said. "Jessica is reportedly spending roughly $50,000 a month on nursery preparations. She insists that the future heir needs imported Italian cribs and designer rompers. Tensions are high at the Calloway Manor." Thor allowed a small, cold smile to touch her lips. "Good. Stress makes people careless. Beatrice hates spending her own money. Jessica loves spending other people's money. And Liam? He's too weak to stop either of them." "There is an opportunity," Arthur said. "The Winter Solstice Gala is next Saturday. It is the premier networking event for New York real estate developers. Liam will be there. He is desperate for a new investor to save the Midtown project." "He's looking for a lifeline," Thor murmured. "Precisely. I have set up a shell company, Orion Capital. We have signaled interest in investing $50 million into a struggling construction firm." Thor turned, her eyes gleaming. "And I will be the face of Orion Capital?" "Not exactly," Arthur cautioned. "If you walk in as Thor Calloway, they will cause a scene. You need to be someone else, someone untouchable. They won't recognize me, Arthur, Thor said, touching the diamond pendant at her throat. Liam never looked at me. He looked through me. Beatrice only saw a servant. To them, Thor was a ghost in an apron. They aren't ready for the woman who owns the haunted house. Then you will attend. I will, Thor said, and I want you to leak a rumor. Tell them the CEO of Orion Capital is a reclusive European heiress looking for a bold American partner. Feed Liam's ego. He'll walk right into the trap. The grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel was a sea of velvet, silk, and old money. Chandeliers the size of small cars glittered overhead. An orchestra played a waltz that floated over the chatter of New York's elite. Liam Calloway stood near the bar, nursing a scotch. He looked tired. There were dark circles under his eyes that concealer couldn't hide. "Stop drinking, Liam," Beatrice hissed, appearing at his elbow. She wore emerald green, but her face was pinched and sour. "You need to be sharp. If we don't secure the funding from Orion Capital tonight, the bank calls the loan on the equipment next week." "I know, Mother," Liam snapped. "Where is Jessica?" "In the bathroom, again, complaining that her feet hurt." Beatrice rolled her eyes. "Honestly, that girl is softer than the last one. At least Thor didn't complain when she worked." "Don't mention her," Liam muttered. "I haven't heard from her in months. I assume she's back in whatever trailer park she came from." Suddenly, a hush fell over the room. It started at the entrance and rippled outward like a wave. The music didn't stop, but the conversation did. Liam turned to see what everyone was looking at. Descending the grand staircase was a vision in crimson. She wore a backless gown of red silk that clung to every curve, with a slit that went up to her thigh. She wore vintage Cartier rubies around her neck. Her hair was swept to one side in glamorous waves. She moved with a feline grace, head held high, looking neither left nor right, radiating an aura of absolute dominance. "Who is that?" Liam whispered, his mouth going dry. "I don't know," Beatrice said, narrowing her eyes. "But look at the jewelry. Those are real rubies. That necklace alone is worth more than our house." Arthur Sterling, looking dashing in a tuxedo, waited at the bottom of the stairs. He offered his arm to the woman in red. "That's Arthur Sterling," Beatrice gasped. "The executor for the Vance estate. The billionaires. If she's with him—" "That must be the Orion Capital representative," Liam said, straightening his tie and smoothing his hair. "The European heiress." He watched as the woman moved through the crowd. Men stepped aside to let her pass. She didn't smile. She simply acknowledged them with a regal nod. "Go," Beatrice shoved Liam. "Talk to her. Charm her. Do whatever you have to do." Liam chugged the rest of his scotch and made his move. He intercepted the couple near the fountain. "Mr. Sterling," Liam said, flashing his best, most practiced smile. "It's been a while." Arthur stopped. The woman in red turned slowly to face Liam. Up close, she was breathtaking. Her eyes were dark and smoky, framed by long lashes. Her lips were painted a deep blood red. "Mr. Calloway," Arthur said politely. "A pleasure. May I introduce the director of Orion Capital, Miss Eleanor Vane." It was a play on words, Thor Vance, but Liam was too captivated to notice. "Miss Vane," Liam said, taking her gloved hand and kissing the knuckles, "you have stopped the entire room." Thor looked down at her ex-husband. She felt a surge of nausea, but she crushed it down, replacing it with steel. He was using the same line he had used on her in the campus library 5 years ago. "Mr. Calloway," she said. Her voice was husky, accented slightly with a vague, unplaceable European lilt she had practiced. "I have heard much about you." "All good, I hope?" Liam grinned, puffing out his chest. "I've heard you are ambitious," Thor said, her eyes boring into his, "and that you have a taste for the finer things." "I appreciate quality," Liam said, stepping closer, "and I am looking for a partner who understands that. I hear Orion is looking to invest in New York skylines." "We are," Thor said, "but we are very selective. We don't like baggage." "I have no baggage," Liam lied smoothly. "My company is lean, my vision is clear." "And your personal life?" Thor asked, arching a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "I prefer my partners to be stable men, family men." "I am very stable," Liam said. "I have a fiancé. We are expecting a child." "Ah," Thor said, feigning disinterest. "How charming." Just then, a shrill voice cut through the air. "Liam, there you are!" Jessica waddled over, clutching a designer clutch. She looked puffy and irritated. Her dress was too tight, straining against her baby bump in an unflattering way. "My feet are killing me, and you left me by the toilets for 20 minutes, Jessica whined, oblivious to the tension. She looked at the woman in red and sneered. "Who is this?" Liam looked embarrassed. "Jessica, darling, this is Miss Vane, a potential investor." Jessica looked Thor up and down, jealousy radiating off her. "Miss Vane, you look familiar. Have we met? Maybe at a salon?" Thor laughed, a low, throaty sound that sounded nothing like the nervous girl Jessica knew. "I doubt it. I don't frequent the establishments you do." Jessica bristled. "Excuse me?" "Liam," Thor said, ignoring Jessica completely. "If you want to discuss business, find me in the VIP lounge in 10 minutes. Alone. I don't do business with distractions." Thor turned on her heel and walked away, the red silk flowing behind her like a trail of blood. Liam watched her go, mesmerizing. "Who does she think she is?" Jessica hissed. "Shut up, Jessica," Liam snapped, his eyes still glued to Thor's retreating figure. "She thinks she's the woman who is going to save my life." The VIP lounge was dimly lit, smelling of cigars and aged leather. Thor sat on a velvet sofa, a glass of sparkling water in her hand. Arthur stood by the window. "He's coming," Arthur said. He left Jessica crying near the buffet. "Predictable," Thor said. The door opened and Liam entered. He looked nervous but determined. He sat opposite Thor. "Thank you for seeing me, Miss Vane." "Let's cut to the chase, Liam," Thor said, dropping the European lilt slightly, making her voice harder. "I've seen your books. You're drowning. You're over-leveraged on the Midtown build. Your suppliers have cut you off. You have 3 weeks before you declare bankruptcy." Liam paled. "How do you— That's confidential information." "I make it my business to know everything," Thor said. She slid a thick document across the coffee table. "Orion Capital is willing to bail you out. $50 million. Immediate transfer. It covers the debt, the completion of the tower, and gives you a nice cushion." Liam picked up the document, his hands shaking with excitement. $50 million? This is a miracle." "It's business," Thor corrected. "But the terms are strict, extremely strict." "I'll sign anything," Liam said. "Read it," Thor commanded. Liam scanned the pages. "Collateral, the Midtown Tower, the company accounts. Wait, you want the Calloway estate as collateral too? My mother's house?" "It's a high-risk loan, Liam," Thor said calmly. "I need security. If you default, Orion takes everything. The business, the patents, the house. Everything." Liam hesitated. "My mother would kill me if she knew I gambled the house." "Then don't default," Thor said coldly, "unless you don't believe in your own success. I thought you were a visionary, Liam." She leaned forward, the red dress slipping slightly. "Or perhaps you're scared." Liam looked at the contract, then at the beautiful, powerful woman challenging him. He wanted the money. He wanted the success. And in a twisted way, he wanted to impress her. "I'm not scared," Liam said. He took a gold pen from his pocket. "One more thing," Thor added. "The contract stipulates that the CEO of Callaway Construction has full autonomy. That means you sign. Your mother doesn't need to co-sign. This is your deal, Liam. Your victory." She was feeding his ego, isolating him from Beatrice's caution. "My victory," Liam whispered. He pressed the pen to the paper and signed his name with a flourish. Liam Callaway. Arthur stepped forward and took the document. "Done." "When do the funds transfer?" Liam asked, standing up. "Monday morning," Thor said. She stood up as well, towering over him in her heels. "We should celebrate," Liam said, stepping into her personal space. "Dinner? Just the two of us?" Thor looked at him with an expression that was almost pitying. "Go home to your pregnant mistress, Liam. Enjoy your weekend. You have a very busy month ahead of you." She walked past him, her shoulder brushing his. As she reached the door, she stopped and looked back. "Oh, and Liam?" "Yes, you were right about one thing earlier," she said, a ghost of the old Thor slipping into her voice for just a second. "Grease never really washes off, but neither does ink." She left him standing there, confused, holding a glass of champagne, unaware that he had just signed his own death warrant. Outside the hotel, Thor got into the back of the Bentley. She let out a long, shaky breath. "Are you all right, Miss Vance?" Arthur asked. "He didn't know me," Thor whispered, staring at her hands. "I looked him in the eye, and he didn't see his wife of 3 years. He only saw the money." "He saw what he wanted to see," Arthur said. "And now we have the leverage. We own the debt. We own the house. When do you want to pull the trigger?" Thor looked out at the city rain. "Not yet," she said. "Let him spend some of the money. Let him think he's safe. I want him to finish the nursery for Jessica. I want them to feel comfortable. And then, when the baby is born, we take it all." 6 months passed. The seasons changed from the biting cold of winter to the humid heat of a New York July. For Liam Callaway, life had become a blur of spending. With the $50 million from Orion Capital, he had felt invincible. He ignored the construction milestones outlined in the contract. Instead, he listened to Jessica. Jessica, now nursing a newborn son named Leo, demanded a lifestyle that matched their new partnership with the mysterious European heiress. They bought a vacation home in the Hamptons. They renovated the Callaway Mansion's East Wing. Liam bought a Ferrari. They lived as if the well would never run dry. But in the shadows, Thor Vance was watching every penny leave the account. It was a Tuesday morning when the hammer dropped. Liam was in his office, feet up on his mahogany desk, scrolling through yacht brochures. The intercom buzzed. "Mr. Callaway? There are some people here to see you," his secretary stammered. "Tell them to wait. I'm busy," Liam said dismissively. The door burst open. It wasn't a client. It was a team of 6 auditors wearing suits that cost less than Liam's shoes, but carried significantly more authority. Behind them stood Arthur Sterling. Liam dropped the brochure. "Sterling, what is this? We don't have a scheduled meeting." "We don't need a schedule, Liam," Arthur said, his voice devoid of the politeness he had shown at the gala. "You are in breach of contract." "Breach? That's impossible," Liam laughed nervously. "We're flushed with cash." "You were flushed with cash," Arthur corrected. "You have spent $12 million on non-business-related assets. The Ferrari, the Hamptons estate, Jessica's jewelry. The contract explicitly stated the funds were for the Midtown Tower completion. Arthur slammed a folder onto the desk. Clause 14, Section B. Misappropriation of funds results in an immediate default. The loan is called in. Full repayment. Today. Liam stood up, his face draining of color. Today? I can't pay $50 million today. It's tied up. Then the collateral is seized, Arthur said calmly. Security, escort Mr. Calloway out of the building. He is trespassing on Orion Capital property. You can't do this, Liam screamed, as two burly guards grabbed his arms. I need to speak to Miss Vane. Eleanor will understand. We have a connection. Arthur adjusted his cufflinks. Miss Vane is waiting for you at your house. She prefers to handle the eviction personally. The heat wave that had settled over New York was oppressive, a thick, humid blanket that made the air shimmer above the asphalt. But inside the Calloway mansion, the temperature was dropping rapidly. It was 10:00 a.m. on a Tuesday. Usually the house would be quiet, save for the hum of the air conditioning and the sound of the housekeeper, a new woman named Maria, who Beatrice constantly complained was too slow, vacuuming the rugs. But today, the silence had been shattered by the heavy, rhythmic pounding on the front door. Beatrice Calloway, wearing a silk morning robe and holding a cup of lukewarm tea, answered it with a scowl. Maria, I told you to get the door. Honestly, do I have to do everything myself? She swung the heavy oak door open, ready to berate a delivery driver. Instead, she found herself staring at the golden badge of a county sheriff. Behind him stood 4 men in generic grey uniforms, holding clipboards and empty cardboard boxes. Mrs. Beatrice Calloway? The sheriff asked, his face impassive. I am, she sniffed, clutching her robe tighter. If this is about the noise complaint from the pool party last night, my son has already paid the fine. This isn't about a noise complaint, Ma'am, the sheriff said, stepping forward. He handed her a piece of paper with a red stamp on it. This is a writ of possession. The bank has foreclosed on this property. You have 60 minutes to vacate the premises. Beatrice laughed. It was a shrill, disbelief-laden sound. Foreclosed? Don't be ridiculous. My son is the CEO of Calloway Construction. We have just secured a $50 million partnership with Orion Capital. This house is fully paid for. Not anymore, the sheriff said, signaling the men behind him. They pushed past Beatrice, marching into the grand foyer with their muddy boots. The deed was used as collateral for a high-risk commercial loan, which went into default at 9 a.m. this morning. The lender has exercised their right to immediate seizure. Stop! Beatrice shrieked, grabbing one of the movers by the arm as he reached for a Ming vase. You can't touch that. That's a family heirloom. It's bank property now, the mover grunted, shaking her off. Upstairs, the commotion woke Jessica. She stumbled onto the landing, holding baby Leo, her hair a mess. Beatrice, what is going on? Who are these people? Call Liam! Beatrice screamed, her composure shattering. Call him right now. There are thieves in the house. The fall of Liam. 30 minutes away, in the glass-walled office of Calloway Construction, Liam Calloway was living his own nightmare. He was standing by the window, watching security guards escort his staff out of the building. His phone was buzzing incessantly. Suppliers, creditors, angry foremen. But the only call he was trying to make was to Eleanor Vane. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. The automated voice mocked him. He dialed again. Same result. Mr. Calloway, Arthur Sterling's voice cut through the room. Liam spun around. Arthur was sitting at Liam's desk, his desk, calmly typing on a laptop. Please stop making calls on company devices. That phone now belongs to Orion Capital. Where is she? Liam demanded, sweat pouring down his temples. Where is Eleanor? She promised me. She said we were partners. I signed the papers. You did, Arthur agreed, not looking up. You signed a contract that explicitly stated the $50 million was for operational costs regarding the Midtown Tower. Instead, our auditors found transfers for a Hamptons villa, a Ferrari Spider, and— Arthur checked the screen. A $40,000 diamond pacifier. Liam swallowed hard. I was going to pay it back. Once the tower was finished, the profits would cover everything. But you didn't finish the tower, Liam. You stopped construction 3 weeks ago because you were busy vacationing. That is a breach of contract. Arthur finally looked up, his eyes cold behind his wire-rimmed glasses. We have triggered the default clause. The company is ours. The accounts are frozen. The assets are seized. You can't do this, Liam whispered, his voice trembling. My family. My house. Ah, yes. The house. Arthur checked his watch. The sheriff should be executing the eviction order right about now. Miss Vane is on her way there to oversee the final walkthrough. She takes property management very seriously. Liam didn't say another word. He turned and sprinted out of the office, ignoring the shouts of the security guards. He reached the parking garage, fumbling for his keys, only to find his parking spot empty. The Ferrari was gone, repossessed. No! 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 Liam screamed, kicking the concrete pillar. He ran out onto the street, his Italian suit soaked in sweat, and hailed a taxi. He had no cash, his credit cards were dead. But he didn't care. He had to get to Eleanor. She would listen to him. They had a connection. He felt it in the way she looked at him at the gala. She was just testing him. This was just a test. The eviction. When the taxi pulled up to the Calloway estate, the scene was chaotic. Furniture was piled on the front lawn. Beatrice's collection of antique chairs sat haphazardly on the grass, soaking up the humidity. Bags of clothes were strewn across the driveway. Beatrice was sitting on a Louis XIV chair in the middle of the driveway, sobbing into a handkerchief. Jessica was pacing back and forth, screaming into her cell phone, the baby wailing in a carrier at her feet. Liam threw himself out of the taxi. "Mother! Jessica! Liam!" Jessica rushed at him, slapping his chest. "Fix this. They locked the nursery. They wouldn't let me take the crib. Do you know how much that crib cost?" "Forget the damn crib!" Liam yelled, pushing her away. "Where is the sheriff?" "He's inside," Beatrice wailed. "They're changing the locks, Liam. They're changing the locks on my house." "It's not over," Liam said, trying to project a confidence he didn't feel. "Eleanor is coming. Miss Vane. She owns the holding company. She's a reasonable woman. We had a moment. I can talk to her." "A moment?" Jessica scoffed, her mascara running down her cheeks. "She's a shark, Liam. She played you." "Shut up," Liam roared. "She likes me. I know she does." As if on cue, the low or powerful rumble of an engine turned the corner. The argument died instantly. The black Bentley Mulsanne moved slowly up the driveway, navigating around the piles of discarded luxury goods, like a shark swimming through wreckage. It stopped right in front of the porch steps. The tint on the windows was pitch black. No one could see inside. "That's her," Liam breathed, straightening his tie and wiping the sweat from his forehead. "Everyone, be quiet. Let me handle this. I need to charm her." The driver's door opened. A large man in a suit stepped out and walked around to the rear passenger door. He opened it with a flourish. Liam stepped forward, a charming, desperate smile plastered on his face. "Eleanor, thank God you're here. There has been a terrible misunderstanding with your man, Sterling. He seems to think—" The words died in his throat. The woman stepping out of the car was not wearing the red silk dress from the gala. She wasn't wearing the mysterious diamonds or the heavy makeup that had obscured her features in the dim light of the ballroom. She was wearing a simple, sharp navy blue power suit. Her hair was down, falling in soft waves around her face. She wore no sunglasses. She stood tall, radiating an energy that was colder than the liquid nitrogen. She looked at the house, then at the furniture on the lawn. Then, finally, she turned her gaze to Liam. Liam blinked. The face was familiar. Painfully familiar. But the context was wrong. This was the face of the woman who scrubbed his floors, the woman who mended his shirts, the woman he had discarded like trash. But the posture was that of a queen looking at a peasant. "Thor," Liam whispered. The name felt like sand in his mouth. Beatrice stopped crying. She squinted, standing up from her chair. "The maid? What is the maid doing in that car?" Jessica gasped, covering her mouth. "Oh my God." Thor Vance didn't smile. She didn't scream. She simply walked up the steps, her heels clicking on the pavement, stopping 3 feet from Liam. "Hello, Liam," she said. Her voice was the same one he had heard for years, but the tremble was gone. The hesitation was gone. It was replaced by a steel core. "You look terrible. Stress doesn't suit you." I don't understand," Liam stammered, his brain misfiring. "Where is Eleanor Vane? Where is the investor?" "Thor Vance," she said slowly, enunciating every syllable. "Eleanor Vane. It's an anagram, Liam. I rearranged the letters. I thought surely the brilliant CEO of Callaway Construction would catch it. But then again, you never did pay much attention to details, did you?" Liam stared at her. You are Orion Capital. I am the sole heiress to the Vance global empire," Thor said, her voice carrying across the lawn so the neighbors watching from behind their curtains could hear. "My grandfather was Silas Vance. I inherited everything the night you kicked me out into the rain." Beatrice let out a strangled noise. "Silas Vance? The mining tycoon? You little rat. You told us your father was a mechanic." "He was," Thor said, her eyes flashing with a sudden, terrifying anger. "He was a good man who walked away from the money because he didn't want to turn into people like you. But I don't have his patience, Beatrice." "This is a joke," Jessica said, her voice high and hysterical. "Liam, tell her it's a joke. She can't have billions. She was wearing rags." "Because I was trying to be a wife," Thor snapped, turning on Jessica. "I was trying to build a home. I cooked your meals, I cleaned your mess, I took your insults, thinking that if I just loved you enough, you would treat me like a human being." She turned back to Liam. "But you didn't want a human being, did you, Liam? You wanted an accessory. And when you thought you found a shinier one," she gestured to Jessica, "you threw me away." "Thor, wait," Liam said, his mind racing. He saw the Bentley. He saw the sheriff nodding at her respectfully. He saw the reality of the billions crashing down on him. The greed that had driven him to ruin suddenly shifted gears. He dropped to his knees, right there on the driveway. "Thor, please," Liam pleaded, reaching for her hand. She pulled it away sharply. "I didn't know. If I had known, baby, we could have had everything. I was stressed. The business was failing. I made a mistake." "A mistake?" Thor raised an eyebrow. "Moving your mistress into my bed was a mistake? Evicting me on your birthday was a mistake?" "I was confused," Liam cried, tears streaming down his face. Tears for his lost fortune, not for her. "I still love you. I do. Jessica meant nothing. She seduced me. She tricked me." "Excuse me?" Jessica shrieked, stepping forward. "You begged me to move in. You said Thor was a boring, frigid frump who held you back." "Shut up, Jessica," Liam yelled, turning purple. "Get out of here. This is between me and my wife." He looked back up at Thor, eyes wide with desperate hope. "I can fix this. I'll divorce her. I'll kick her out right now. Just take me back. We're married, Thor. In the eyes of God, we are still married." Thor looked down at him. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. "Actually," Thor said softly, reaching into her purse. She pulled out a folded document. "We aren't." She dropped the paper. It fluttered down, landing on Liam's knee. "Those are the divorce papers you served me 3 years ago. My lawyers finalized them this morning, just minutes before the bank seized the house." Liam stared at the paper. "And as for the inheritance," Thor continued, her voice turning to ice. "My grandfather had a clause. The toxic asset clause. I couldn't touch a penny of the money as long as I was married to you. He knew you were a leech, Liam. He knew you would drain me dry. So by serving me those papers, by throwing me out, you literally handed me the keys to the kingdom." The realization hit Liam like a physical blow. He slumped back onto his heels. "I did this?" he whispered. I made you rich." "You set me free," Thor corrected, "and in return, I bought your debt." She signaled to Arthur Sterling, who was standing by the car. "Arthur, what is the current market value of Callaway Construction?" $-12 million, taking into account the outstanding loans and the lawsuits from the unpaid workers," Arthur recited. "And the house?" "Foreclosed, scheduled for demolition next week. The land is worth more than the structure." "Demolition?" Beatrice gasped, clutching her chest. "You're going to tear down my home." "It's not your home, Beatrice," Thor said coldly. "It's my shelter." Thor took a step back, looking at the trio of ruins before her. Beatrice, broken and old. Jessica, realizing she had bet on a losing horse. And Liam, the man who had traded a diamond for a piece of glass. "I'm going to build a transitional housing center here," Thor said, "for women who have been discarded by their husbands, for women who are thrown out into the rain with nowhere to go. It seems fitting, don't you think?" "Thor, you can't leave us like this," Liam sobbed, grasping at the air. "We have nothing. No money, no car, nowhere to sleep." "You have your health," Thor said, her face impassive. "And you have your true heir, don't you? Surely that's enough." She turned around and walked back toward the Bentley. "Thor!" Liam screamed, scrambling up and running after her. "Thor, wait! I'm sorry." The bodyguard stepped in front of Liam, placing a massive hand on his chest and shoving him back effortlessly. Liam stumbled and fell onto a pile of his own designer suits that were lying in the dirt. Thor paused at the car door. She looked back one last time. "Oh, and Liam?" He looked up, dirt on his cheek, hope flickering one last time. "I heard the hardware store on 5th is hiring stock boys," she said, a small, vindictive smile touching her lips. "Minimum wage isn't much, but if you budget carefully, maybe in 50 years you can buy a new tie." She slid into the back seat. The heavy door slammed shut, sealing her in a world of silence and luxury. "Go," she commanded. The Bentley pulled away smoothly. Liam watched it go. He watched the taillights disappear down the long driveway. He sat in the dirt, surrounded by the wreckage of his life, while his mother screamed at the sky and his mistress cursed his name. The humidity pressed down on him, suffocating and heavy, but he felt cold, freezing cold. He had held the world in his hands, and he had thrown it away because he didn't like the packaging. And now the Queen had returned to her throne, and the jester was left to rot in the mud. The Callaways never recovered. Liam declared personal bankruptcy, and now works as a shift manager at a hardware store, forever haunted by the billion-dollar fortune he threw away for a fling. Beatrice moved into a small, one-bedroom apartment, bitter and alone, telling anyone who would listen that she used to be royalty. And Thor? She never remarried. She took Vance Global to new heights, becoming a legend in the business world, a woman of steel who built an empire from the ashes of her heartbreak. She proved that the best revenge isn't just surviving, it's thriving so brightly that the people who hurt you have to watch from the shadows. Wow, what a roller coaster. Thor definitely served that revenge ice cold. Do you think she went too far, or did Liam and his family get exactly what they deserved? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Are you Team Thor, or do you feel a little bit sorry for them? If you enjoyed this story of betrayal and sweet justice, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss out on the next drama. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next story.